and racism could no longer mask the reality of the occupation. These were people, these were human beings. I've since been plagued by guilt anytime I see an elderly man, like the one who couldn't walk, who we rolled onto a stretcher and told the Iraqi police to take him away. I feel guilt anytime I see a mother with her children, like the one who cried hysterically and screamed that we are worse than Saddam as we forced her from her home. I feel guilt anytime I see a young girl, like the one I grabbed by the arm and dragged into the street. We were told we were fighting terrorists. The real terrorist was me, and the real terrorism is this occupation. Racism within the military has long been an important tool to justify the destruction and occupation of another country. It has long been used to justify the killing, subjugation, and torture of another people. Racism is a vital weapon employed by this government. It is a more important weapon than a rifle, a tank, a bomber, or a battleship. It is more destructive than an artillery shell, or a bunker buster, or a Tomahawk missile. All those weapons are created and owned by this government. They are harmless without people willing to use them. Those who send us to war do not have to pull a trigger or lob a mortar round. They do not have to fight the war, they merely have to sell the war. They need a public who is willing to send their soldiers into harm's way. They need soldiers who are willing to kill and be killed without question. They can spend millions on a single bomb, but that bomb only becomes a weapon when the ranks of the military are willing to follow orders to use it. They can send every last soldier anywhere on earth, but there will only be a war if soldiers are willing to fight. And the ruling class, the billionaires who profit from human suffering, care only about expanding their wealth, controlling the world economy. Understand that their power lies only in their ability to convince us that war, oppression, and exploitation is in our interest. They understand that their wealth is dependent on their ability to convince the working class to die to control the market of another country. And convincing us to kill and die is based on their ability to make us think that we are somehow superior. Soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen have nothing to gain from this occupation. The vast majority of people living in the U.S. have nothing to gain from this occupation. In fact, not only do we have nothing to gain, but we suffer more because of it. We lose limbs, endure trauma, and give our lives. Our families have to watch flag-draped coffins lowered into the earth. Millions in this country without health care, jobs, or access to education must watch this government squander over $450 million a day on this occupation. Poor and working people in this country are sent to kill poor and working people in another country to make the rich richer. And without racism, soldiers would realize that they have more in common with the Iraqi people than they do with the billionaires who send us to war. I threw families onto the street in Iraq, only to come home and find families thrown onto the street in this country, in this tragic and unnecessary foreclosure crisis. We need to wake up and realize that our real enemies are not in some distant land. They're not people whose names we don't know and cultures we don't understand. The enemy is people we know very well and people we can identify. The enemy is a system that wages war when it's profitable. The enemy is the CEOs who lay us off from our jobs when it's profitable. It's the insurance companies who deny us health care when it's profitable. It's the banks who take away our homes when it's profitable. Our enemy is not 5,000 miles away. They are right here at home. If we organize and fight with our sisters and brothers, we can stop this war, we can stop this government, and we can create a better world.
Welcome back. That was a great clip by one of our troops, and I'm very proud of people over there because they are involved. They're involved in day-to-day problems over there, and they know what happened. They know that they have been betrayed, they have been lied to. Yes, of course, we need people who protect us from the enemy, but where is this enemy right now?
Who is the enemy?
Yeah, and who is the enemy? Definitely the enemy is not that Iraqi girl or Iraqi woman who is afraid of basically many things over there and barely can control her fear over there. Definitely is not the guy who is minding his business over there in Iraq. But the real enemy actually is here in our own homeland, who are manipulating the system and taking advantage of our lack of knowledge, lack of knowledge of lots of things that they don't want us to know. And the real enemy is that conspirator that is trying to bring lots of illegal immigrants in this country and make this safe country a very unsafe country, and then later on, after making a chaos in this country, they would bring the new order. Chaos, order out of chaos is their motto, as they say always.
So who is the enemy? I mean, it's not just here in this country, but also...
It's a global thing.
It is a global thing.
It's a network.
And the banking institutions, the major central banks,
yes,
the Federal Reserve in the United States and the Bank of England in England.
Aren't they owned by the same people?
It's actually, we're not allowed to know the names of the people that print our money.
Wait a minute, I thought this, part of this show was the truth that they don't want you to know. So we're supposed to know that.
We're supposed to know that.
Well, absolutely, we do know about that. But
the Financial Times covered that.
Did they?
They did. They had a whole piece on the shareholders, I believe, of the Federal Reserve Bank. This is going back when Ron Paul was running for president.
But they have owners too, not just shareholders, but actually people who own the bank and then sell shares, right?
Well, no. The owners of any entity are the shareholders.
Well, Bill Gates owns Microsoft.
If he has the most number of shares, i.e. 50.01%,
I see what you're saying.
Then he is the owner.
He founded the company. He was the owner. When it goes public, he can become a non-owner by other people buying more shares than he has.
If he lets them.
If he lets them.
If he allows that.
Right.
Okay.
But believe it or not, I mean, this is my point of view. They're printing money. They're creating money out of the thin air. They don't really need money, but
printing money out of thin air is not really a problem. I mean,
that's what they do.
Wait, it's not a problem.
It isn't. No, back to the Revolutionary War and the Tea Party. Everybody knows about the Tea Party now.
Okay.
The Tea Party was not only a revolt against tax, the original Tea Party, the tax on the tea and whatever else, but also, mostly, actually, they keep it out of the history books, but it was a revolt against the colonies printing their own money. And they were printing it out of thin air. They didn't have anything to back it up. It was called colonial script.
Hold on, you said the revolution
Yes.
was based upon the colonies printing money.
The American Revolution. And they had colonial script. They were printing their own money. They said, to hell with this English money, we'll just print our own. And you can do this in your own community. Go to communitycurrency.com or .org and check out the work
but
there.
No,
really
I mean, I'm not... Yes,
Go ahead.
Jim,
No.
I'm not saying that there is a problem with that. Once you set...
the problem is who's printing the money.
Exactly. Thank you so very much.
Who owns, who controls the money?
Yes,
who controls the money?
But what I was trying to say, that is not the problem. They don't have money problem. What they want is depriving the society. They want to take away...
They want inflation.
Exactly, inflation.
The inflation or interest rate game is rigged.
Yes.
Just like the casinos.
Yes, absolutely. So lots of these things that they do in Wall Street, here, there, Main Street, is a part of their control system once they have you. Because if you go back in a slavery time, that was a better system because it was...
Better system monetarily?
Not monetarily, but basically
Better for the people in power?
Well, better for the slaves.
Better for the slaves?
The
Better-
slave-
I tell you
slavery-
why.
Okay.
Because